probably fairly important is, who are you and where do you work?
Yeah. It's good to see you, Liz. Hey, everybody out there. Dan Petroski from Napa Valley. I am sitting here in my office at Larkmead Vineyards. I'm the winemaker at Larkmead. I am the owner, proprietor, winemaker of Massican Winery as well.
So what do you make under those two very different umbrellas?
From the Larkmead perspective, I'm very fortunate to make Cabernet Sauvignon in a very classical style here in a very iconic winery that has a history that dates back over 125 years. So I'm trying to uphold the history in a modern winemaking format, but Cabernet Sauvignon to our core. We do make a blend of Merlot and Cabernet, as well as a blend of Cabernet Franc and Cabernet, but we are our core product and our core output is what we believe to be, some of Napa Valley's finest Cabernet Sauvignon ground up here in our estate in Calistoga. To kind of swing the other way completely, Larkmead makes about 95% of our production in red wine. Massican is 100% white, and it is the only white wine winery in all of Napa Valley, possibly one of the only 2 or 3 white wine wineries in all of California, with an intense focus on making bright, refreshing white wines that are meant for the table, with kind of a Mediterranean style with a focus on Italian grape varieties. So some antiquated vines, pre-1950s Tocai Friulano, and some singular Ribolla Gialla, Greco, Pinot Bianco, Pinot Grigio. So things that if you know your California 1980s history, about the Cowatown movement, but this is kind of a modern, fresh look at it.
Thank you. And, bridging into a more personal question, can you hear me? Oh, Dan, are we frozen? Oh.
Yeah, you're not moving. I can hear. There you go.
Okay.
You're good now.
Okay, we'll see how this goes. It says my internet connection is unstable, which is, weird, but okay. So bridging into a more personal question, why do you make what you make? You did not hear that, did you?
I did. Why do I make these? Hey, I have a job. No, I'm actually. When I came out to California, I didn't come out to California to be a winemaker. I came out to California to play a transitional role, a gap into my next stage of my career, which I thought was going to be wine sales and marketing. I ended up doing an internship with Andy Smith at Dumal in Sonoma County, making Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, which kind of bridged over to the relationship Andy had with Larkmead as a consultant. So he brought me on board there, gave me an opportunity to be a winemaker at an iconic historic estate, which I shouldn't, all intents and purposes, I did not deserve because I had no academic background in doing so, but I worked hard at understanding why Cabernet was important and why Cabernet was great. And the great wines, I still remember to this day, drinking second label Costa Stenal in the mid to late 90s, and from, thinking about that Bordeaux blend and thinking how, kind of it just shook me a little bit how good it was. And then fast forward to when I started my internship with Andy, drinking some Aubryon, which is a Merlot and a Cabernet-based wine, at our harvest party in 2006 at Dumal, and just really haunting me, since, to this day, haunting me about how good that wine was and what it meant to me to be sharing it in that situation. So I've tried to replicate that in my day job at Larkmead to figure out how to make every glass of wine feel like that to someone else. And that's so that's really my goal with Larkmead, is to make a great Bordeaux grape variety in Napa Valley, blends of Merlot and Cabernet Franc, et cetera. But that's the reason I do that. The reason I started Massican was because my life changed in 2005 when I decided to leave my prior career in life and moved to Italy. Went to Italy, lived there for a year, worked in a vineyard in Sicily with a family that owned the property. And I got to learn how to appreciate wine and how to drink it, not necessarily how to make it. I was working on a vineyard and kind of just doing some kind of manual work for a year. But when I come back, I think about the cultural aspects of why I appreciated what I did and what we drank. And it was all white wine. We're in an island in the Mediterranean, 9 months of the year. It's beautiful weather. You're sitting outside, you're eating outside a lot. The weather called for drinking these kind of fresh, bright, citrusy, saline white wines to go with the food that you were eating on a daily basis. So when I got back to California, and I dove head first into Napa Valley wine country, I kind of consumed as much Cabernet as I possibly could, as much Merlot as I possibly could, California Chardonnay, California Pinot Noir. But it was very quick. Within 2 to 3 years, I realized the climate here, the culture here, doesn't come together when it comes to wine drinking. The climate here is very Mediterranean, but we drink very California wines, big California wines, hedonistic, luxurious, pedestal wines on a regular basis, where we should be drinking, bright, fresh, fun table wines that kind of really match the environment and match the culture, match the climate. And I think that was what drove me to start Massican, was that I needed that cultural connection between the air, the food, the place, the wine, which basically is just terroir, right? It's like this culture of terroir that we as wine geeks try to think about when it comes to climate and ground and geology and grapevines and human history and interaction with it. It's the same thing when you think about food and wine and cultural pairings. Mm-hmm. The way I think about it.
So, this might be hard to answer. It might be easy. Do you have to me, that sounds like a crazy kind of learning curve in terms of being at Dumal and then being in the Napa Valley and starting your own white wine brand. And there's a lot of education kind of intrinsic in all that, and which sounds like you did a lot of, you had help, of course, but a lot of it was your own kind of dedication to figuring it out. So are there some highlights for you, like a time in your working career that you felt like, really resonated for you more than other times? Do you have some things that feel like you had some holy shit moments?
Yeah. The thing that was the most holy shit moment that I've experienced, and this is something that we're currently experiencing under COVID. Can you hear that?
A little bit.
No, the fork I can stop the forklift. I'm controlling it with a joystick. No, to answer your question, the holy shit moments, what I realized about the wine industry that was, just completely baffling to me and shocking to me, but in the same way, incredibly open and welcoming, was the fact that we're very open and welcoming and generous people. And it's not just the wine industry, it's the hospitality industry and the food and restaurant services industries. We all in it together. Mm. And if you walk into a restaurant and they know you or know of you or are familiar with your wines, there's always a smile and a welcome that goes beyond anything that you experience as a normal consumer. And your normal consumers don't get that. But I think that but as people within this trade, the food and wine industry, mm-hmm. I was just holy shit moment. Everyone opens their doors. Everyone lets you look under the hood. Everyone allows you the opportunity to learn from them in a way that I've never seen in any other industry, especially if you're thinking about where we live. We live, not even 100 miles from some of the smartest people on the planet in Silicon Valley, creating some of the things that have changed the world in technology. But that is such an inclusive and exclusionary business. You don't share energy and ideas as much as we do, I feel. It's illegal in California to intellectual property. You can't share. But in the wine industry, everyone is so open and honest and generous with their time, with their knowledge, with their wine. I think we all drink better and eat better because we share with each other. And we all maybe eat and drink a little bit above our pay grade because when we have a good bottle, we don't drink it alone. We don't hoard it. We share it with our friends and vice versa. So that is actually that is probably my biggest telling moment in my career here in Napa Valley and in this community, in this nationwide community of hospitality, is that we can always find a friendly and welcoming and generous face anywhere in our business. And that's not necessarily, from my old days in corporate, something that you see across the board in a lot of other industries.
That is it's a really interesting outside perspective. You know, there are a lot of people that have sort of grown up in the hospitality business, so it's what you know. So it's interesting to have somebody who's been elsewhere and worked in a totally different environment come in and say, "Hey, do you guys know how good you have it?" You got to know.
It is. And look, I've had plenty of bad experiences as well. It's not all unicorns and rainbows, but the general overall feeling. And what I'm seeing is like translating that into current day COVID, where I'm seeing communities come together and we're all communicating with each other in a way just to make sure we're okay. There's a little bit more empathy, obviously in the world today, but especially in the hospitality industry right now, in the wine industry, food, restaurants, retail, we're all in this together. And I think we all know how hard it is on each other, and we're doing the best we can to support each other.
Agreed. So it feels like I'm backtracking a little bit, but I'm going to ask it anyway. And then we'll go into the sort of current day situation a wee bit. But, you know, there's a lot of wine out there. So, and what makes Larkmead and Massican different? You know, why should people care about these two particular brands?
I think about that all the time. I'm the first person to say that nothing that I put in bottle is precious enough for you to care about it. And then Liz, you know, you don't wake up every morning, even though I work with you for years now and we're friends and we're partners in what we do, you don't wake up every morning and care about Massican. You have 1,000 other things going on in your life, between your relationship and your kids and your life and your family and your business. It's nothing that we do is so important and so precious that any one of us should care about it as the first and foremost thing. It's the first and foremost thing on my mind every day. But I don't. When I started the business in 2009, Massican, and I'll go there first. The reason I started it was I felt that if I enjoyed something, if I wanted to appreciate something, I could find enough other people who would want to appreciate it as well. And I found enough other people who wanted to appreciate Mediterranean-style white wines in the Mediterranean climates of California. I could start a small business here and do something good with it. And it has kind of blossomed a little bigger than I anticipated. It's gotten to where it is today, pretty successful at what I've accomplished. And you know, I've been true to my commitment to making the same, that you can trust that the wines I make are going to be there for you when you need them. Stylistically, there's 1,000 wines in my category that are delicious, or you know, and priced in your category that you can afford. And I'm just there as one of them. I'm not there to try to say I'm better than anyone else, or the right wine for the right moment, or the perfect wine for the situation on the table. I'm just there if you want to have that fleeting moment of tasting a wine that the winemaker put his heart and soul and his romance and nostalgia into, to kind of bring him back to Italy every time he smelled Massican. And if I can give you that in a glass and give you that moment where it takes you back to something in your life that was romantic and a vacation and another period in time, that's what I really, that's what I want. That's what's different about these wines, that there's a little bit of energy and a little bit of soul in those wines. And yeah, and I just want you to feel it. And I can't be the one to tell that story to everyone, or tell that to everybody. And that's why I rely on you and your team and everybody out there who supports Massican. And I think what I've noticed during this current period of COVID, the friend to friend, the word of mouth has been my biggest supporter of my brand in the last 8 weeks. Is the consumers telling each other, and the domino effect of one person telling another person. And it's been why I'm not freaking out about the future right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, a little bit of relief and a lot of crazy. So transitioning to how the last couple of weeks, now months, has been going for you. Have there been anything surprising to come out of this in a positive way, hopefully, from the experience of being, sheltering in place and all that stuff?
Yeah, I can say one thing, that I've been more fortunate than most working at a winery is an agricultural business at its core. So it's considered an essential business in California since day one. So I've had the good fortune of being able to come to Larkmead every day. So I haven't been in a confined quarantine, for lack of a better term. I've been able to kind of get out of the house and come outside and walk vineyards and do some wine work in the cellar. I was bottling during quarantine for Massican, and we're bottling during quarantine for Larkmead starting next week. And so I've been fortunate in that regard. And so it's been a positive for me because I spent a lot of that time alone up until this preparation for bottling at Larkmead. It's only been me at the winery for about 6 weeks. So it's been a good health and wellness moment in a sense that I can understand, get some time to myself and kind of contemplate and think about what's good and what's bad, get over some of the anxiety of coming out of this. As you know, the Massican wines are so friendly to the table that a lot of my business is done in restaurants. And, on the Larkmead side, we are so, kind of rely on our fan and customer base that we've built over the last 15 years of hospitality that since we opened the doors of the tasting room, and that is in our blood here. The hospitality that Larkmead provides, its membership and its consumers, and not to be able to do that. So that was a lot of anxiety as well. And it's been, so to think through those things and to think about what they look like in the future, I'm really excited and optimistic in a way to think about what 10 years from now looks like. Sometimes it's hard to see the forest and the trees, but 10 years from now, our industry and our business is going to change so drastically. And it's going to be better than it was in January 2020, in my opinion. We're going to have a brand new outlook on hospitality, food services, food, beverage, wine. Everything is going to change, and it's only going to get better. We don't go backwards, in essence. Like as Americans, is what we've done since World War II. Nothing has put us backwards. Yeah, you can argue that we're all busy and we're all working too hard, and computers change our life for the positive or the negative. But we've never done anything in any way, shape, or form since World War II that is really on a trajectory of careers and development. We've never gone backwards. So I don't anticipate we'll go backwards in the next 10 years.
I like that half full stuff, Dan. I like that.
I don't know where it's fucking coming from.
I don't know you right now, but I like it. Do you have a hobby? Well, you've been going to work, so, but has there been any kind of stuff that's kind of sustained you in terms of personal hobbies or, I don't know, or the drums?
Yeah, no, it's, I've been very, so I don't know, I guess I heard the term, quarantini right from the beginning of this whole quarantine, and I was like, oh, that's just perfect because I just happen to love myself a good martini. And so the quarantini started.
The first time I've heard this just now, my mind is blown.
Yeah, so I heard, I don't know when, I heard this in March, and Napa officially went into quarantine. I think on the Friday night, maybe have been like the 21st or something of March. So I started this nightly quarantini. So I'll make a drink every night, and I post it on Instagram. Oh. And it's usually a 1 or 2 or 3 part Instagram story, and then it's just been, I've done it every night. We're 67 nights in right now. And every night it'll either be a new drink, or it'll be a martini again, or a Negroni again, or a variation thereof. Mm-hmm. I've done some hacks. I know how to do a dirty martini without, using olive brine. You use a little bit of malt and sea salt, which just blows your mind when you're mixing it. So I've been doing this quarantini, and it's been great. I don't spend a lot of mental energy on it throughout the day. It's always on my commute home. So on my commute home, I look at the weather, I look how I'm feeling, I feel what's my day look like. I want to go home and make a cocktail. What should I be drinking today? Should be something tall, in a Collins glass, on the rocks, highball. Should it be a martini? Should it be a Negroni? Do I want bitter? Do I want sweet? Do I want sour? Do I want? And so it's how I feel, on the way home. And then I literally get home, and I have this little bar in front of a bookcase, and I just take a picture of the ingredients, and then I tell you what I'm making, and then I take a picture of the cocktail, and then I drink the cocktail, and I write a little note about it, whether a tasting note or a historical reference. So it's been my hobby. It's like, so my hope is that I can do this for 100 days, and, you know, and finish it on 100 and, or 99, you know, 99 bottles of beer on the wall. Maybe I finish on 99. But,
Taking
and that's it. And, but it started out really geeky. Like the first time I did it, I talked about the dilution, the pH in your ice cubes and how that interacts with the texture of a martini. So I had really high pH ice cubes, and I used that to do the mixing of it to dilute the martini to see if it changed the texture. And that was my first Quarantini. It was something I've been thinking about for a long time. I said, I want to post the results of this. So that's how Quarantini came about. And that's it. Yeah, that's been my hobby. It's been my drinking.
Tremendous.
It's been great.
I'm just going to say tremendous. Do you have a soundtrack? You know, is there anything you've been listening to more than, you know, other things?
Sometimes I try to bring the Quarantini into my soundtrack, but you know, perfect examples, MIA's Paper Planes was part of my soundtrack for that, you know, for making a paper plane. But no, I actually I've always loved him as a composer and a producer, but Daniele Lupi is an Italian composer and musician, and he's worked with a lot of people. He's worked with Danger Mouse. He's recently in an album that I've loved. He's worked with Parquet Floors and Carano from Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And he just has such a, you know, everything about me as you get to know me is about the romance and nostalgia and, you know, the golden days, the salad days, the glory days, the past, whether it be my time working at Time Inc. and it was like Mad Men era or my year living in Italy. It's like everything to me has this kind of flip back to the past. And it's funny, like Daniele Lupi's, you know, he looks at a lot of like the old Morricone Italian composition of old, you know, spaghetti Western movies. He sounds like it's, you know, his soundtrack should, you know, be like Ocean's 11 or a Quentin Tarantino film. So he just has this kind of, his album he did with Parquet Floors is called Milano, and it's based on, you know, 1980s Milan and like this kind of cultural significance of how like growing up and gentrification, but it's also like these just young kids in Milan trying to figure themselves out, like so different misfits and freaks and punks, and it's just a really cool album because I do think Italy itself is still stuck in the 80s. If you go to Milan, you still see a bunch of teenage kids and young kids wearing like sweatsuits and big Gucci, you know, kind of sweaters at night, and like you just like, you know, what's with the Gucci sweater and the skinny jeans and like your, you know, the Prada sneakers. I feel like we're still in the 80s here, kids. And it is totally, you know, so this album really reminds me of that.
I have to check it out.
Yeah. Daniele Lupi. He's based here in California. I think he lives in Los Angeles. But good guy, good music.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Listening to a lot of that in the cellar over the last, because if no one's here, I can play it really loud.
No, that's fun. Big space, big sound, you know, maybe. So my last question has, I think, already been answered a few times, but, you know, I think you're a martini man, but maybe are you a Negroni guy? I mean, what is it?
Well, yeah, actually, you know, Negronis is something I actually drank a lot of when I was living in Italy, and when I came back, I was drinking them. But then I kind of made the Old Pal, which is just kind of a Negroni and a Manhattan, you know, had a baby. So you started to use bourbon or rye. And I drank a lot of them in 2007, 2008. They were my drink because it had brown liquor plus bitterness plus kind of sweetness from the vermouth and herbaceousness. And then I went to a martini, but I actually started with martinis a long, long time ago. So when I'm not a small guy. I played college football. I was always, you know, kind of big and chunky. I drank a lot of beer, and it took a lot of beer to get me drunk. So I actually moved very quickly post-college to drinking, you know, martinis on the rocks because it was a little more diluted, you know, kind of got you through the night. You didn't have to buy a lot of them. And so that was my drink in my 20s, you know, living in New York City. And now it's my drink in my 40s as I've kind of evolved into an adult. And I always tell my friends, some of my friends who know this, who turned 40, I give them a cocktail shaker, stirrer, a jigger, and a bottle of gin and a bottle of vermouth, and maybe even a bottle of, you know, kind of Campari or something. I give them a mix. I said, you're 40 years old. You're an adult now. Now start drinking like one. and everyone just like, and they're all wine guys. They're like, and I'm like, just trust me. Yeah, cocktails,
Yeah.
a big thing in my house. Yeah.
Well, as you know, I'm trying to get better at Instagram. So, clearly I missed out on a lot of quarantinis. I'm gonna have to do a little backlogging or something to check it out. But I think that's my lineup. And
Awesome.
I really appreciate the time. I know there's plenty of things to do. So it means a lot to have you on and talking with us about both brands. And I hopefully will get this out so you can, see it in the world, sooner rather than later. So.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Stay safe. I look forward to seeing you in person and raising a glass. And,
yeah, absolutely.
getting together.
Yep. Cool. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Liz.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.